This meeting is being recorded.
Right, you should be able to see the screen now.
Yes. Yep, all that.
Perfect. All right, and yeah. So welcome to the 23rd lecture of my classical Greek introductory course. And today we are going to overview the inflection of a few athematic verbs in the perfect tense. These are all verbs with stem changes and a perfect tense meaning, which is identical to or lies very close to a present tense meaning. The verbs we are concentrating on are oida, I know, hesteka, I stand, and tethneka, I am dead. The first of these, oida, alters between three different stems: aid, oid, and id, depending on the mood of the verb. And moreover, in the last of these alternative stems, id, the concluding delta in the stem may also change to a sigma. So actually 4 different stems for the perfect forms of this verb exist: aid, oid, id, and is. And if we begin by looking at the indicative forms of this verb, we may note that here the root oid is applied in all persons in the singular, while is in use in the plural. So the full paradigm of the perfect indicative of this verb is as follows: oida in the first person singular, oista in the second person singular, oiden in the third person singular, ismen in the first person plural, iste in the second person plural, and isasin in the third person plural. Okay, and if we turn our attention to the subjunctive and optative forms of this verb, we may note that here the stem from which the subjunctive is formed is aid, and then the usual subjunctive endings with long thematic vowels are applied here to this root, while the optatives have here the characteristic iota infix, which falls between the stem and the ending, preceded by an epsilon, in this case in all persons and numbers. So the full paradigms are here. If we begin with the subjunctive, which we find here on the left side, in the first person singular, eido, in the second person singular, eides, in the third person singular, eide, and then in the first person plural, eidomen, eidete in the second person plural, and eidosin in the third person plural. And then if you turn to the optative forms that we have here on the right, they are eideien, eideies, eideie, eideimen, eidete, and eideien in the third person plural. Okay. Then, if we turn to the pluperfect forms, these again have an imperfect meaning, since the perfect has a present meaning. And here the stem is also aid, but this initial a turns into an eta with iota subscript in all forms because of the augment which, as you may remember, is typically applied to pluperfect forms, just like to aorist indicatives and imperfects. Actually, this augment has originally been an eta followed by a digamma, but these original pluperfect forms need not be learned. Anyway, full paradigm is here. Is here ede or edein in the first person singular, edesta or edes in the second person singular, edein in the third person singular, esmen or edemen in the first person plural, este or edete in the second person plural, and esan or edesan in the third person plural. Okay, and then on the next slide we have the imperatives, the infinitives, and the participle forms of this verb. So the imperatives are here first, and first one here is the second person singular form, which is isti, and then we have third person singular form is isto. The second person plural form is iste, and the third person plural form iston. And then the infinitive is eidenai, so to know. And then the participles are eidos, eidyia, eidos in the nominative. And if you look at the masculine and neuter genitive forms, which we see here, you see that they have this typical ot part that's the same in also in thematic forms of participle, active participle forms. This ot characteristic for active perfect participles, and this ia in the same vein for feminine active perfect participles. Okay. Then next in turn, we have the following verb in the perfect tense, but with a present tense meaning, and with a variation of stems as well. And this is hesteka, I stand, which is derived from the me verb histemi, I place, which we had last time. However, the perfect tense forms of this verb that we see here are here intransitive, which means that unlike histemi, they do not take an object. And in the perfect tense, this verb varies between the stems hestek and hesta. So this is how this verb is inflected in the perfect indicative. So here we have hesteka in the first person singular, hestekas in the second person singular, hesteken in the third person singular, hestamen in the first person plural, hestate in the second person plural, and hestase in the third person plural. And we may note here that the stem is hestek in the singular forms and hesta in the plural. And just like was the case with oida, we have here also a pluperfect form with an imperfect meaning, which is hesteke, hestekein, I stood or I was standing in the first person singular. The perfect subjunctives, optatives, imperatives, and infinitives of this verb are then all formed from the stem hesta, as are the participles. But we will not go through these forms individually. Okay, let's move forward then to the last verb on our agenda today, which is deathneka, I am dead. Which has been derived from apothnesko, I die. And here the roots are tethnek and tethna. And in the indicative forms, the kappa stem is again applied in all persons in the singular, while the plural forms are lacking the kappa infix. So the full paradigm for the perfect indicative is here as follows. Tethneka in the first person singular, tethnekas in the second person singular, tethneken in the third person singular, tethnamen in the first person plural, tethnate in the second person plural, and tethnasin in the third person plural. And of this verb, as you may remember, there is also a so-called futurum exactum, or future or perfect form, which is tethnexo. Okay, but the rest of the moods of this verb we won't go through. However, you can look them up yourself if you're interested on page 210, section 1827 in the Cambridge Grammar of Classical Greek. That was actually all of the content that we had on this lecture today, but we should still look at one PowerPoint with some bonus material on how to analyze a participle form, because this may be something that you may be asked to do as part of the second exam on this course. And yeah, here we have an example sentence, which is Athenai hypoton person eftarmenai eisin, which translates as Athens has been destroyed by the Persians. So we have a perfect form here, which is underlined in the Greek text, and it's a perfect participle form, this eftarmenai. So then when we begin to analyze this participle form, it's of course good to start with stating that it's a participle, and it can be done like this. Just write part, and then you ask, a good place to start when it's a verb form is to concentrate on the tense, what tense it is. Well, in this case, it's a perfect tense. How do we recognize that it's a perfect tense? Well, you have a read application, but in this case, the read application is only an epsilon, because the beginning consonants are of a kind which does not allow for a proper read application. But then we can look at the root here. So the basic form of this verb is theiro, and this has there has been a sound change in the root as a consequence of the transition to the perfect stem. So that's one way. And then of course that it's a participle, we can see from this men ending part here. And this men ending part also allows us to conclude that it's what voice it is. We can conclude that it's a medial passive, the voice, and moreover from the context we can derive that it's a passive voice, because it's you have this hypo here and the agent, so it must be in the perfect voice. So that was the first two, the tense and the voice. But then when it's a participle form, it's a bit different than when we analyze a verb form or a noun form. So it's a bit like a mixture of analyzing a verb form and a noun form. So if these first two, the tense and the voice, belong to the verbal part, then this last two belongs to the adjective or noun part. If you remember, the participle is often referred to as the adjectival form of the verb. So it can be analyzed both in terms of a verb and as an adjective. And yeah, when we analyze the adjectival aspects, we can start with asking for what kind of gender is it. In this case, we can derive that it's feminine when we look at this ending. This I ending is typical for feminine adjective and noun forms and participle forms. And then this I part also tells us that it's in plural, the number is plural. And then if this I part actually also tells us that which the case is nominative. So these are the three, or the five things that are asked for when it's a participle form, a participle that needs to be analyzed. First of all, of course, that it's a participle, but then the tense, the voice, the gender, the number, and the case. It doesn't matter in which order you have these, but to produce a complete analysis of a participle form, this is what will be asked for, or you will be asked to do. Usually wherever you study classical Greek, actually. Okay, that was it. Then we can move on to today's lecture. Or not to today's lecture, but to today's chapter. Of course, if you have some questions, we can also ask them, but usually you don't have any questions on this lecture. Yeah. Do you see the chapter here now?
Yes.
Cool. So first we have engrave inscription.
Yep.
Another one.
Another one, yeah.
Yeah.
So anthrope is evocative.
Yeah.
So it's oh man or oh human.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you walk down this,
if you begin with this first here, after
Hos.
this anthrope, this hos,
as
what it?
while or
It's a relative pronoun actually. So
oh who? Okay.
yeah.
So oh human, you.
Yeah. That
You
could be,
walk,
yeah.
yeah, you walk down this road. And then yeah, I couldn't this frasin alla noise in. I mean,
What does this mean?
mind.
Yeah.
But it's a accusative, is it?
It's
Yeah.
it's an dative
Dative.
plural form actually.
Yeah.
I think I had it here in the.
Yeah, you said it was an old form.
Yeah. So is this another? Where was it? Here.
I think you put it there. It's on the list there. Yeah. Dative plural of mind. Okay, in mind. Yeah.
I don't see it. Where is it?
Yeah. So as you walk down this road, other things in mind.
Yeah, it was in the wrong place. Sorry. Control. It should be here, right? Yeah. Exactly. So as you walk down the road, with other things in your mind, or how did it?
Yeah, with other things in your mind.
Yeah.
And stop and pity.
Yeah. So both imperatives forms here.
Yeah, stop and pity, seeing the grave marking or the tombstone of Orasthenos.
Yeah, it's isn't it Thrasonos?
Thrasonos, yeah.
Thrason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then very good. Then we have an inscription on how a lame person is
Yeah. So
being cured.
so it's the lame Nicanor the lame, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
While sitting down and being awake, or being awake, a certain boy, having grabbed his staff, fled. So he was sitting down and a boy took his staff.
Mhm. Yeah.
While while sitting down, being in a waking state, some boy fled, having grabbed his staff. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
And after he stood up, so
Yeah.
having stood up, he gave chase, and from this he became well,
Yeah.
healed. Yeah.
This could be after he stood up. It could also be like a circumstantial use of the aorist participle. Then it could be just like he stood up and
He stood up and gave chase. Yeah.
standing up, he gave chase. Yeah. So usually the aorist participle has this, as you noted, this meaning of a preceding completed action. And sometimes it's more of a circumstantial use. And then it's like something that takes place actually simultaneously with the predicate or the main leading verb of the sentence.
Okay.
But yeah.
So the inscription at Delphi, the Athenians dedicated the colonnade and the armaments and the figureheads of ships seized from the enemies.
Yeah. This, how did you have this hopla?
Well, I said armaments.
Armament.
Armaments, yeah, because it's like
Weapons, yeah.
Yeah, weapons or.
Yeah. I don't think I've heard that word before. Armament.
Armaments. Okay.
Okay, but it means weapons.
It means weapons or arms.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Good. Very good.
And
so here was this, just to note this strange age that
yes.
you need to start this like an old inscriptions before or in the beginning of the classical age, they had this in inscriptions still this age letter to stand for the spiritus asper sound, of course, hopla. Okay, yeah. Then this
inscription at the temple of Athene at Priam is King Alexander dedicated the temple to Athena Polias.
Exactly. Yeah, very good. So pretty straightforward there.
Yeah. And the old man and death. So once an old man was chopping wood, and carrying this was walking on a long road. Walking down a long road.
Yeah. And then next one.
And then, yeah, I mean, having exclaimed or exclaiming, he put the wood down and summoned death to come.
Yes, exactly. Good.
I couldn't work out why thanato was in the genitive, but I presume it's a genitive absolute.
Yeah.
But it's so it's thanato, and then it's split the
The whole of this, yeah, whole of this first here. This is all in the genitive, right?
Yeah.
The first
yeah. So
the whole first
phrase.
phrase,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
is
yeah.
in the
So death. Because epistantos euthys was suddenly standing or immediately standing.
yeah, or standing up maybe even.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. And ethos, what does ethos mean?
Straight or
Yeah, or immediately. Or
immediately, yeah.
right away.
So he was asking, I mean, just is it a genitive? Is it a part of a genitive absolute? All of that.
All of that, all the way here to Python nominal.
Yeah.
This first clause here is all part of the same genitive.
Yeah. So it's
and the object
having
of this is here actually, but yeah.
Yeah, having asked the cause.
Yeah, the cause, exactly.
Yeah.
An idea.
Yeah.
So death immediately standing up, or yeah, or death having immediately stood up, maybe, and asking for the cause, right?
For the cause, yeah. Dehen, why he had been called.
Yeah. Exactly, or
why he had called him.
Yeah. I had called him, exactly.
Yeah. The old man said, oh. I didn't get this far.
So it's an answer like to this.
Yeah. So it's lift the load.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to get the full meaning here, actually.
Yeah.
Something like so that the load, right?
Yeah.
The load, this
Yeah.
load, aras is like lifting up.
Yeah.
So it's a participle form of
Yeah.
aireo.
And
having listed at epithets, but this is a bit difficult to interpret what epithets in this. Obviously, it's a subjunctive form.
Subjunctive aorist, is it?
Yeah, of epithemi.
Yeah.
But what the exact meaning would be here?
Place upon.
Place upon.
Yeah. Yeah. I just couldn't understand why there was sort of two. There was a participle and a verb.
Yeah. I actually have to think about this. What the exact meaning here would be, or what they are after here. I don't really. So he wants death to lift up the burden, right?
Yes.
And then he wants to place it upon him after that.
Okay.
So there's some pun here, but what's the pun? So okay. I guess he wants to, have death instead of that burden that he has to carry. I guess he wants death to come and place his own burden or something like this on him. The burden of death, I would guess. He's tired of carrying the load. I would guess. But I have to look up if there's some commentary on this.
Yeah, because that is a fable. I mean, it's one of Aesop's.
What?
Yeah, it's one of Aesop. It's Aesop's fable.
It is, yeah.
But from what I remember, it was that he called death, and then when death came, he suddenly thought, "Oh, I didn't want to die," so he just said, "Oh, can you help me pick up the load?" It was more of a.
Okay, yeah, but that
I didn't mean to call you. You know.
Yeah. So, but then it's just to pick up the load, and Death thinks that he's come to summon him and to bring him death, but then the old man changes his mind and it's like, okay, I put down this burden here, can you please pick it up and put it back
on my back? Yeah,
so that must be the meaning, right? Okay,
that was as far as I got.
Okay, you didn't get further than that.
No,
but that's pretty far. It was the whole first page, so pretty good work. Okay, should I maybe translate again and send to you the translation of the last part, so you can, if you want, you can compare. But great, good work.
Okay,
this was an introduction to these athematic verbs, so it takes some time to getting used to them, but it's like with all verb forms. It just, the more you encounter of these forms, the easier it becomes, and faster you learn, you start recognizing them. So good.
All right, well, thank you.
One more chapter. So great. Thanks for today.
Okay, see you next week.
See you.
Thanks then.